Good morning, everybody. It's Merritt with Master of One Coaching, and I'm so glad to be coming to you live today, Friday, March 19th. I hope you've had a great week. Not everybody has had a great week this week. We had some pretty intense happenings down in Atlanta this week, and I wanted to first acknowledge that as a leader in a position where I am a leader of leaders every day. Hi, Jonathan. Nice to see you. Thanks for coming. It's really important to take a stand. And I think that in the past, leaders have sometimes hedged their bets a little bit around this. They feel like if we take too much of a stand, we might be excluding somebody or we might create a conflict. And I'm here to tell you that that is not the way we're going to get by anymore. Other people who are following us, who need us to be strong in our values. Hi, Liz. So great for you to be here. People are looking to us to lead them in times of crisis and in times of uncertainty and in times of emotional distress. So I'm going to tell you right now, for those of you who don't know me that well yet, I'm going to tell you a little bit about where I stand as a prompt from this week's events in Atlanta. But I took a second to wrote it all down. Hi, Amy. Thanks so much for being here. I'm going to take a stand, or I have already taken a stand several times in my life through my actions and through my values. But here's my stance on some values as it relates to what happened this week and the news around it. I'm a modern feminist. I'm the mother of 3 amazing boys, and I love my boys, and I'm raising them to be strong, compassionate, ethical, brilliant men. I'm a partner of an incredibly strong, brave, compassionate, and passionate, committed man, and it's my privilege to be his partner. I stand for equity and equality. I am an anti-racist, period. I am the proud mama and matriarch in a multiracial, multicultural, and adoptive family. I am strongly against violence, pretty much of any kind, period. I also understand that some of you may not agree with that, and we may not come to consensus on all of this, right? And that is okay to an extent. It's an okay. Because I welcome thoughtful, conscious discourse and discussion on any of these issues, so long as we're bringing our best selves to the table and we're willing to listen to each other. I actually have several years experience doing diversity, equity, and inclusion work. And in that experience, I loved getting dirty in the conversation. I loved holding space and being in the container where we could really get to the meat of what is at the center of these really difficult conversations. It's about identity. It's about culture. It's about our belief system and how we feel like our belief systems are threatened and when our stressors go up, right? So I welcome those thoughtful, conscious conversations. I kind of love them. I love digging into them. I also know that there's so much that I don't know, and I'm always looking to learn. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about values there because, and this is going to be a nice segue into what we're going to be talking about today in terms of re-entry in our new, quote, new normal, end quote, which I know is this overused phrase. But the way to navigate any of these transitions and these difficulties and these difficult conversations, these tough conversations, is to understand very strongly and clearly what your values are, what you stand for. As a business, my values are excellence, contribution, and fun. And for me, excellence is all about never ending the learning process. We're always striving and growing. If you've been following me a little bit now, you've been seeing my posts about imposter syndrome. We talked a little bit about it a few weeks ago here too. And learning about what excellence means for you. What is your version of excellence? It's not perfection. It's not trying to be somebody else's version of excellence. It's your version of excellence. For me, that means I'm always growing. I'm always seeking. I'm looking for new ways to learn and grow. And in the spirit of that, I take a stand for being humble about what I don't know. So when you're seeing all this discussion about anti-Asian hate and racism and the suspect who was apprehended regarding the shooting and how he said that he shot them not because of who they were or their race, but because of his sex addiction. I mean, all of these things are so complex, right? And it also ignites fires in other people. And So just know that when you're navigating this for yourself and for others who are looking to you for leadership, come back to those values. What are your values? I would love to hear a little bit about what you feel are your values in the comments. If we could have 1 or 2 people throw up some comments and give me 1 or 2 values that you have. 3 is kind of the magic number because they're easy to remember. And for me, those 3, excellence, contribution, and fun, are really encompass all of my work. But I would love to see your values here up in the comments. So if you could give me 1 or 2, that would be great. And as we look at these values, we're going to use them to create our new pathway forward into this, I keep wanting to say post-COVID world. It's not post-COVID. We're going to be living with COVID, right, indefinitely. But in our post-shutdown world, in our post-quarantine world. And it's evolving quickly, and it's never quite the same thing, right? And every day it's a little bit different. It's a little bit more nuanced. Compassion and perseverance, Liz says. Thank you so much, Liz. Absolutely. And I know you very well enough to know that that's definitely true for you. That speaks to the heart of who you are. And so I guess the next question, Liz, would be, how are you going to use that moving forward? And whether you want to share that with us or not, something to think about, right? How are we going to use these values going forward? So in leadership roles, the first thing to remember is to stay human. As we open up the world again, as we maybe go back into workspaces, if you haven't already, or if you're going into with more people might being there, as schools start to open up more again, it's going to create a whole new bag of stressors for people. It's going to stir up some stuff, right? Some fear, some fear about getting sick again, or is that safe, or are my kids safe, or is my office space safe? Do I have the right precautions ready? Am I legally liable for the safety, right, of the people who are leading me? That's a possibility too. Jonathan says, listening. I'm going to bring these up. Actually, Liz first said compassion and perseverance are her go-to values. Absolutely. And then Jonathan is sharing, listening and being willing to listen is core to understanding and moving towards equality. 100%. Having those open conversations, understanding connection. Definitely. We have to be willing to listen to each other and to really seek to understand. Not listen so that we can speak next, but listen to seek to understand. And Liz is sharing something here too. She says, I arrived to help other women to heal, grow, and thrive, and to work actively against racism. That's powerful. Thanks, Liz. I love how you say I arrive too. I arrive to help. It sounds like you are stepping into that all the time, right? There's no real end to that process for you either, right? I'm arriving. I've arrived. I'm coming into the space. I find myself in that space, and it's always a new group of people too. So that's beautiful. Thank you. All right. So as stressors come up, here's what we do as people. We have a stress response that is wired neurologically wired to help keep us safe. And I actually was just part of a workshop this week because I totally geek out about this kind of stuff. There is a 0.6 second difference between the decision we make, and it is a decision based on our belief system and our thoughts and our patterns and our experience, the decision we make to jump into a fear response or a thoughtful, calm response. The decision to go to a calm response, a calm space in our brain up here in the frontal cortex here, is 0.1 second. Okay, that's how long it takes for us to get there. It takes us 0.7 seconds to get to fear. So there's a 0.6 second difference between those two decisions. Think about that for a second. It is like that, right? And the way we do that, if we don't have consciousness about it, is because of our patterning. It's about what we've done in the past, what we think works, and what we are unconscious about what works or not. I'm going to bring one more set of values up here from my amazing husband, Tom. He says his values are consistency and commitment, and ain't that the truth, from my love. Thank you, Tom, for bringing that up. Okay, so 0.6 seconds to make that decision. How can we get a hold of that 0.6 seconds when we are leading others in these stressful times as we're emerging into this new normal. And you're going to see more and more of them, and they're going to be new kinds of stressors, right? They're going to be things we've never had to deal with before. And that is part of the anomaly of this time, is that we've never had to deal with this in this particular moment in culture with this access to technology. We've never had to deal with all of these different components before. So we're going to continue to see new stressors as leaders, and as those of us who are following us, they're going to want to look to us for that. All right, so that 0.6 seconds. Are you going to choose fight, flight, freeze, or appease? Or are you going to choose calm, thoughtful thinking, thoughtful response? Are you going to arrive to help other people heal, grow, and thrive? As Liz said, are you going to be consistent and keep that commitment to yourself to be consistent, to show up well? Are you going to remember to listen and core understanding for others and moving towards equality, understanding, and connection? Are you going to remember that when you're under stress and when other people around you are freaking out? Because leadership is not just about managing yourself, although that is the first part. And that is why my business is called Master of One Coaching, because we work on mastering yourself first so that we can lead others effectively and with grace and with integrity. So I'm curious about what you're seeing out there in the world as your challenges in your leadership roles. What are the changes that you're seeing? And what are the challenges that are going to continue to show rear their ugly heads to you? And I'd love to see some examples here in the chat here too. So maybe 2 or 3 of you could pop in. I would love that. Your changes in your workplace, maybe changes in your schedule. I'm just looking at some of my notes here. When people get heated or feel hurt, how are you going to adapt yourself and your behavior and your decisions so that you can help lead others through that while also dealing with your own stuff? What do you guys think about that? I would love to hear some of your challenges. I'll tell you, for me, while we're talking about it, for me, the challenges continue to be my kids' schooling situation. That is something that we're dealing a lot with here, and that is still evolving. We've had state changes even within the changes. We just had another change this week where my kids are changing classrooms because their needs have evolved. And so that's it's a relief in some ways, but it's also a stressor for our house because it means another schedule change. And in our house, we have people who are very sensitive to disruption, hypersensitive to any sort of adjustment. So that's been a long management process. I also see change in my clients as they look to leading others in their workplace. One client I talk to a lot about the schedule is, we are in front of our computers. Sometimes I'm in front of my computer now, sometimes 12 hours a day, 7 days a week or 6 days a week. That's going to change as we start to integrate with the world more. It may not be, if we're not going to go back to the way we were though, right? Probably a lot of us, we're going to have some sort of integration around that. I know there are big companies who have said, we don't really need these office buildings anymore because we realize that most of our staff work more effectively from home without having to deal with that commute. Is that something you're dealing with? And you can have meetings when you're in front of your computer, right? Back to back to back to back. You can have a full day of meetings or a full day of work. When we're integrating with the world, when we're out going to and from a place, or when we are going to and from meetings. I have one client who works in DC and he says, I have to get on public transportation and go from this meeting to that meeting to the other meeting. I can't have these back-to-back meetings anymore. How is that going to change for us? And what does that have effect on us, on the people we lead, on our clients, on the people we're serving? So what else is out there for you guys? What other challenges are you facing? I would love to know. And the last thing I wanted to talk about today is, if nobody wants to jump on there, because I'm happy to do a little on-the-spot coaching, and if not, that's cool too. We can wrap this up a little early today too. That's fine. But I wanted to mention a couple of things about mastering yourself. So we talked about stressors, and we talked about mastering ourselves in terms of those stressors. But what does it mean to be fully fulfilled and have mastery over yourself so that you are continuing to grow? And Jonathan's chiming in here, and he says, the challenges for me are going to really be in re-entering the world and managing my health as I do so, right? I'm honestly very stressed about it. Sure, absolutely. The health thing is so scary. And, whether you have you're consciously aware of some health compromises that you have, or whether we're just stressed about keeping other people safe. We have people who are high risk and in our house as well. It's terrifying, right? Is it okay to go back into the world and who's vaccinated, who isn't, and is the vaccine safe? And we think it is, right? But there's evolving strands of this virus, and there's just so many unknowns. And a long time ago, when I was being trained to be a foster parent and adoptive parent, this is now, my oldest is almost 17. So this was 17 years ago now. But I had a wonderful social worker who told me that monsters live in the dark. And I use that all the time, right? So we can't go around saying, hey, are you vaccinated, right? It's a privacy issue there. But like, what would it be like to have conversations with people who we feel comfortable with and who we're going to be integrating with on a regular basis? Like, here's my concerns about my health. Where are you with your health? How can we make this work for both of us or for all of us so that we all feel safe? I'm part of a networking group too, actually part of several, and we're dealing with this conversation as well. Like, we meet once a week. We used to meet every once a week in a public place, and we'd all have breakfast together. Now we're all meeting once a week online on Zoom. Are we going to go back to meeting all together? Are we going to go back and meeting once a month together and 3 weeks a month on Zoom? Are we going to have people sign in and have some sort of remote option in the live meetings? All these questions are being answered. And I'd love to hear if you all have any solutions yet, because I don't think there is any one, there certainly isn't one solution that's going to one size fits all. But if you have any ideas about how you might be going forward with that, I would love to know that too. I think it would really help other people watching this to hear your creative ideas and solutions. Anyway, I was going to mention the last little bit of this here is mastering ourselves according to those values, according to the values that you mentioned earlier: compassion, perseverance, listening, seeking to understand, consistency and commitment, working actively against racism, healing and growth and thriving. How can we root ourselves in those values when we're under stress and when we're making decisions, creative decisions, to adapt and grow in our new environments? And so that's a revolving conversation too. That's not something that we can make a decision on today necessarily, because we're going to have to interact with those challenges as they come. But leadership, at the end of the day, is about standing in your values, standing strongly in those values so other people can rely on you. They know who you are. They know what you stand for. They know they can trust you, right? We're not going to waver in those values. We're going to evolve, but we're not going to waver. And also being human, taking care of yourself and connecting with humans first before we do all the other stuff, right? So as you go out into the world, I'd like to remind you all, if you haven't heard of me yet, that I'm running this mini boot camp starting on Monday. It's 3 days. It's perfectly free. It's going to be half-hour sessions, kind of like this, with some extra content and some challenges for 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And we're going to talk about getting you in tip-top shape, for your leadership roles. And if you are looking to evolve in your leadership role, if you're looking to make some big changes and get out of your own way, right? You see some visions ahead for yourself, and you're looking to get out of your own way and really take some powerful steps forward. This boot camp is going to be excellent for you. Totally free. It's available on my Master of One coaching. Scratch that. It's available in my Genius Leadership Facebook group, which is different. So that's a private, smaller group. This is my page, but that's a smaller group. If you want to check that out, I'm going to put in the comments below. I'm going to put the link to sign that up. Again, totally free. Come on in, join us Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and get ready for your next powerful steps in leadership and in your life. Thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate you being here today. I'm sending you all good energy for a beautiful weekend as we evolve into spring. Yay, spring, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere. And if you have any other questions or want to send me a direct message about the boot camp or any other of my programs, I would love to hear from you. You can also join my mailing list on my website, masterofonecoaching.com, and get a free leadership journal there. So come on in, and we'll see you hopefully on Monday. And stay tuned for next week. I have another amazing guest coming your way. See ya.